Happy New Year, HyperStream. We have done it. We have actually cleared the hurdle of another year. So 2025 is just hours away, at least at the time of this recording. So it's probably a good chance that might be 2025 by the time you see this. And we've got a different format for this one, mostly because it is offline, meaning I have a couple less hurdles to hop over, a little less wrangling to do just to get a couple things knocked out. I was originally on the fence about doing a recap this year, but there have been a couple major milestones that have been achieved, and I figure it is a good time to go over a couple things just to celebrate what's been going on. And most importantly, it is my opportunity to express appreciation to everyone that has helped out over the last couple years that we've been doing this. Whether that's viewer interaction, helping out with shows, picking up some of the supporting materials that we've had going on here. But it has been a crazy year. 2024 for the most part. Although there have been some good things, I'm probably not going to be too sad to see it go. I'm actually far more optimistic about 2025. Um, and so, from those of you who know a little bit about business, they usually say within the first year is kind of like a make or break point. And we have made it past our first year for streaming, and we are coming up on the tail end of actually our second year. So I really think going into year three is going to be the real test before we make it to year five, to see how things go, because I'm going to make my push to make everything as viable as possible. And over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll definitely see if things will be able to continue or have to get readjusted and look for some alternate options to make things happen. But in the meantime, there is some cool stuff going on, and I wanted to share that with you. So, first and foremost, are these two right here. So these are the reasons that I'm like, there's no way I can get away with not doing a recap this year, because the two milestones, first of which is getting Ascendant Chaos across the finish line, and the other is actually getting a release date for Aladdin 3477. So I'll talk about each of those a little bit here in detail. So some of you may or may not know, Ascendant Chaos is the first book in the Firewall Protocol saga, and that started back in December of 2002. So just past the 122 year mark, I finally have a public release. And it took so long because not only with career life responsibilities and other things, there was actually two books that got drafted in that period of time, and finally needs required that this book get finished so I can start working on the next things related to the project. And it has been self-published through Amazon, and it is available both in Kindle and for paperback. And it was a several month process just to go get from a near complete manuscript to a complete polished product with all the editing. So it was quite the undertaking. A lot of crunching to get all that done in the time necessary. So it's very exciting to finally have it done. And I think, if anything, even though it's only been a few months, it's kind of like, I don't know if there's been a lot of time to reflect on the fact that it is actually finished. It's just because there's so much to do. My brain is usually like, okay, on to the next thing, time to get the next piece done. But I think now is probably the time to be like, yeah, that part's done. It's finally in the can, in the bag, whatever expression, across the finish line. It's at the end of the tunnel. It has been completed. So that's huge. And the other big thing for Aladdin 3477, so this is the sci fi take on the Aladdin story by director Matt Bush. And after a successful Kickstarter campaign in 23, and after securing a distributor deal in 24, we've got a release date, and it's actually in 2025. But the crazy thing is, it's not far away. We're like within 3 days, depending on whether it drops at midnight or whenever, but it's scheduled to release here January 3rd. So we did get the announcement a few weeks ago. So technically that happened in 2024, but it's been amazing to work on this. It has been my privilege to learn a lot and interact with a lot of people on this film. And like with my own project, it is something that has taken a long time to ramp up. For me, my involvement has been already better part of 10 years, from working on set to helping with production in the editing room. And then there's various other social things to follow. So it is very exciting that people will finally get a chance to also see that after talking about it for many years. So, especially with Ascendant Chaos, a lot of people probably thought I'd never get it done, and I know people probably had some similar um, sentiments with Aladdin because they just wanted to know when it was coming out. But it's exciting that both long-running projects both have a physical manifestation either available or will be available within the next couple days. So here we go on to the next thing. So to talk a little bit more about some things going on with Ascendant Chaos and the Firewall Protocol saga. So one of the moving pieces that has been going ahead of the physical release of the book has been the audiobook, and that has been another chore, a lot of work going into just doing the recording, doing the editing. So we've reached the point now where we're up to 5 complete chapters with a small piece of 6 available. Those typically get released for our Patreon members, but since the release of the book, I've been working on extra polish, and as of right now, both chapters 1 and 2 have been made publicly on the platforms where we have, archiving capacity for videos. So both chapter 1 and 2 up on Odyssey and YouTube and Rumble. And then if you always want to keep tabs on the latest progress, the pieces as they're released are available to Patreon. And we finally were able to get some cleanup done to consolidate. So there's been a lot of adjustments with the pricing and the efforts to grow that audience. And there's also other things available like concept art. Sometimes you get my behind the scenes thoughts on things going with that. So if by any means, interested in seeing what's going on ahead of time, that's one of the best ways to find out. And also you at least get the earliest access to the auto as available. So one of the other things that also transpired over the summer of getting the book released was trying to come up with logos and color schemes for branding, for identity, and I wasn't even ready to get a cover together myself. I've had certain ideas for the cover for years, but because of other things in the way, like jobs and career, it has not allowed me the time to fully build up the concepts for the cover myself. So I actually had to go with a simplified approach over 2 to 3 weeks to get something done. And I also did that for an animation, which now actually precedes the audiobooks. So there's been a lot of other work that you would not normally think of an author undertaking. This is a much larger project than just writing a couple stories. It's also about building a world and building a franchise. Even though it's limited, it's not intended to be an ongoing thing after the few entries that are slated for production. But there's a lot that goes into trying to get an identity set up, and there was a lot of crunching over the summer. So that's just a still frame of the animation there in the lower right. So that actually will represent the franchise moving forward and will be seen in future marketing things. So it has been a wild year for the Rec Room. So I think roughly a year ago, we were on the verge of rolling over the original newbie format for everything visually on the Rec Room. Thankfully, things have been stable. I have not had to change much this year, but the one major upgrade is we now finally have a logo for the Rec Room, and that's exciting to go from basic text to finally have something that I hope represents the kind of content that we do on the gaming spectrum. And we've probably not touched on quite as many games this year as we did last year, so I didn't really want to, spend a lot of time going through each of those, but I did want to touch on a few highlights. So MechWarrior was the newest game that we had available to us when we started the Rec Room, and actually, let me correct that. One of two of the newest games. It was actually the newest AAA title we had. The only other one that was new relative to that time was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. But the thing is, those were out before the Rec Room happened. Now, what was crazy is that MechWarrior had so much content that we ran 80 episodes. So streams vary from about 2 to 3 hours in length. So even on the light side, 80 episodes at least 2 hours apiece. That means we've done 160 hours worth of MechWarrior 5 content since we started. So honestly, I was relieved to finally set that one aside. That was a long time. I still enjoyed the game, but at the same time, that is a long time to commit to something without knowing when the end is in sight, because the game in a way kind of goes on indefinitely. But we tackled all of the major objectives within the game, so that gave us opportunity to rotate some other stuff in and out. So the reason I brought it up as new content is because one of the things that's popular in streaming is to try to do something without having prior knowledge of the game. MechWarrior 5, I had knowledge because I had played through it a couple times, or at least tried to play through it a couple times. when it was first purchased, but we didn't have any new content to reveal. So we finally had, in a way, a couple new games this year, and so there's a few firsts. But the thing is, a couple of them have asterisks next to them. So the first up is Metal Slug Attack Reloaded. That got announced and released in like on the same day during the summer of 2024. And I didn't actually start the game right up when it came out. I was waiting until a friend was here. We took a look at it, and then I ended up playing it offline for a bit before actually putting it on the stream. So although it, in a way, technically was the first brand new game on the Rec Room, it was not actually a blind playthrough. So then there's another one that came out. We actually got a Tomb Raider remaster this year, and it technically is a brand new title in a sense, but it's a remake of older titles. So it's weird to say that it's technically a blind playthrough, but I did play the original Tomb Raider in the 1990s. So I haven't technically played the other two-thirds of the game. So I again have to put an asterisk next to it. But then finally we have Metal Slug Tactics, which is a brand new title. I actually fired that thing up the day it was released, and we've been working on it since. So actually, 3 of those 4 games have been either in regular rotation or been used as filler. So it's been very cool that we finally had a chance to get some new content in there. So that's why that was kind of a bit of a highlight. And of course, wrapping such a long-running game like MechWarrior. So after that, we have some of the other content. So I think I may have teased some of this for New Year's last year. I'm definitely ambitious with the number of things that I want to do with the HyperStream, but of course, all of it requires time. One of the key ones, which I'm most passionate about, is the ability to do multiplayer gaming. And thankfully, we had some amazing guests who contributed their time to help making Last Land Standing available. So I tried to shoot for a little bit of a monthly thing. Didn't quite happen because a lot of life things going on, but we managed to get through uh 5 to 6 episodes of Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, and then one of another game called Section 8. So we actually had either 4 to 6 consoles on site here at the studio, and we had enough guests that we could rotate. And to my knowledge, yeah, everything went pretty well. Everybody was favorable. We had some testing moments with competition, but we had fun. And also, another one that I was trying to do is take on a different format in which somebody else could be here in studio and we could work on something cooperatively instead of from a competition standpoint. And that's what Cooperative Laboratory represents. And I got to shout out to everybody who has participated because, of course, multiplayer stuff would not be possible without guests. I can't sit here and control 4 controllers myself. That wouldn't go very well. So really appreciate the Call to Stealth, F-14 Tomcat, Tactical Turtle, Dark Nuke, Dizzy, Caprinus, Professor Doom, and Soundman. And then we even had some old school guests come in from Helix, Elite Hacks, T-Myth, Punisher, and Cool Daddy Smooth. So they've been all contributors across the many episodes we did of Last Land Standing. And as of right now, Call to Stealth was very helpful with Cooperative Laboratory, getting that up and running. And I do have intention to get some other guests and some other titles in rotation, hopefully in 2025. But again, it's always with time and availability permitting. And I've got some more adjustments to do for the different games we want. And I have to check with our guest availability. But it's been pretty awesome thus far. Very happy. Let's finally get those rolled out in 2024. And another thing, which was kind of more impromptu, it was like an idea on the back burner back when the Rec Room started, but it really didn't see the light of day until a few months ago, and that is Brick Bunker. So essentially, that's just a chronicle of me going through and reassembling a Lego collection. And what's tough is that algorithms on these platforms are not always favorable, especially in the YouTube variety. So we've really struggled to get any traction on YouTube with any of the video game content provided thus far. Now, here's what's weird. The very first episode of Brick Bunker has been the first and thus far only video that has broken 100 views. So whether that's the algorithm or whether that's real people, hard to say. But either way, it's just interesting to see how some of these dynamics work. We've been studying from a metric standpoint. So it's been nice to see at least something, randomly out there might break through. And we've done a few episodes of Brick Bunker thus far. And you can anticipate that there could be a few more of those coming up in 2025. So, yes, doing the good business thing of trying to pay attention to trends. Well, I'm somebody who usually needs to be dragged onto social media kicking and screaming. So what's finally happened is, because of the numerous links to represent every platform on the HyperStream, I finally created a Linktree account. So I now have that available, and you'll start to see that in more of the descriptions on our videos, because there's just become links to everything. We've got 4 HyperStream platforms, and then on top of that, we've got the Patreon. Then we've got the link for the Amazon, or for Amazon, for the book, and a few other things. Oh, and one other project. I'm not going to spoil it. So there's actually one other thing that's of relevance too that needs to be linked to. So hopefully that should cut down on some of the text clutter. But that is one of the new business things finally undertaken, along with TikTok. So I'm not on any of the other major social media platforms thus far, but did fire up a TikTok account, and lately that has been a little quiet, but we've been using it for some teasers, some promotion for things like the Rec Room, or just doing some pop culture stuff just to give some more tangible, hands-on kind of things. So, yep, doing the whole business thing when possible. So, what's ahead for 2025? Well, the key things are, I'll start with the stuff on the left. So, the number one emphasis for 2025 is getting book 2 done for the Firewall Protocol saga. So, as mentioned earlier, it has been drafted. And just as a reference point, so Ascendant Chaos clocks in at 700 pages. Well, before that got expanded and polished, I knew that book 2 was already longer than that. Now that I've got it formatted correctly in the same format as Ascendant Chaos now, it's already clocking in at 730 pages, and yet I'm still finding gaps in the story. So you can bet it's probably going to be 750 pages at least, barring how much needs to get added. I don't know if it's likely I'll find stuff to remove, but it's going to be another healthy sized piece of content. So I think it's very optimistic to think I could get it done in 6 months, but it's going to be a mad rush to get as much editing and revision done on that as possible in 2025. Of course, that also still leaves, what about the audiobook for book 1? Well, because that is such a time sink, and the book takes priority, audio is not necessarily on the front burner. It's not on the back burner either. So if you imagine a burner in the middle, well, it's probably somewhere in there. So we're still going to continue forward progress on audiobook 1. And of course, we're on chapter 6, but I also have some polish to do for a couple other previous releases. So there's going to be some juggling going on with that, but there will still be forward progress. So one of the other things I've alluded to a lot on streams this year, and it's just been a matter of time, that I also want to get another streamline running, and that is with Scrapyard, and that is going to be dedicated to fighting games, and that will also require guest interaction. But I have made some progress on it, but it is not yet finished. But because we did see Last Land Standing and Cooperative Laboratory get rolled out in 2024, that has taken some of the workload out of those. Now, hopefully, I can focus on getting Scrapyard finished. That will be the plan. And of course, the other exciting thing is that I have our first show set up, and it will be in the form of a craft show. But my understanding is that independent authors have leveraged those. So we're already on the books for something in 2025, and I'll have more details as we get closer to that. And you're probably wondering, what are all these icons on the right? Well, another exciting thing, as of this week, we now officially have a merchandise store on Redbubble. The requisite was to get 5 designs, and we have already been approved, and it is now publicly available. So some of the stuff you'll recognize. So we've got a couple, or I guess I should clarify, these are all icons that are used for shirt designs. So the top couple are, of course, from Firewall Protocol. We've got another one for the Rec Room, and the other 2 are just some artistic or creative process related things. Anybody who's seen a few of my streams know that I will rail on AI any chance I get, so I thought it'd be kind of clever to do something that supports creativity that is done without AI. And of course, with being a writer, I thought the other one might be kind of clever. So again, with having a potential craft show, I figured some of these might be good contenders. And there's more designs on the way. So I have at least ideas for at least another good 3 to 5, and those will be made available as time permits. So it is exciting to finally have merchandise out there. And here's a big one. So it's obviously been an uphill climb to not only go from getting a book finished, but now to try to build an audience for that book, that franchise, that property. And I can't say thank you enough to those who have already checked it out. I've already received feedback from a few who have completed the book, but of course, these are pictures. Some were sent to me directly through people I know, and some through family. But this is just a sampling of those who have already picked it up, and thus far, feedback has been positive. So I appreciate it, and it's no easy task. It is a lengthy book, but my intent has been to make it a movie on paper. So I think it has uh, trended in that direction. But of course, you won't know until you try it for yourself. So by all means, head on over to Amazon and check it out. Of course, you can also see the preview for a few chapters over on Kindle. But I'm hoping that more of you will take interest in it because I'm excited. There's a lot more to come, and it's going to only escalate in scale. Not necessarily in terms of length. It's not my intent to make it longer, than need be, but it is designed to be a very large franchise, and things have gone very well thus far. It's just a matter of taking time to build awareness. The things I've tried thus far, Amazon ads has not helped, Google ads has not helped. Even with the HyperStream, of course, growth has been slow but steady. So it's an uphill battle for sure. But with having physical shows to do, I'm hoping some of that will increase in 2025. So that is, I guess, the best I can say on that. I feel like something. Nope, that is the last one. I miscounted here. So, in short, in closing, for the most part, eh, lose track of all my idioms. But anyway, thank you to all of you who have participated. I mean, there's been so much that's gone on in form of participation. I mean, that includes either watching the stream, that includes commenting on the stream, comments even. I've received some positive comments lately. One of the most impactful thing has certainly been our Patreon members, because that has been a tangible contribution, and that has helped keep things like the audiobook going. And of course, as you just saw, even purchasing a physical copy. So I've had to rework Patreon because, the thing is, if you've got the book available, it kind of seems to undercut the audio, but at the same time, I still want to make sure there's things available to keep people in the loop and to find some new exciting things that help you visualize the content as it grows. So it's been tough to keep all these plates spinning, and I thank those of you especially who have been there since the beginning and come along across the way and just helped in any way possible. There's been many of you out there, and an even greater untold number of you who have been part of the HyperStream. So I don't get to see who's checked in. I see summaries, I see numbers, and I see counts, but it doesn't quite tell who's a regular visitor or who's just checking in for a few minutes. So that could be an even larger number than I know. I didn't go through the time to compile everything. I was hoping that we might be able to get to 200 by New Year, but we didn't quite get there yet, and that's okay. Like I said, progress has been slow, but it has been steady. And if it hadn't been growing at all, perhaps the HyperStream would have made it this far. So I'm enjoying the process, and I hope those of you who have checked it out as well. And hopefully, if you really enjoy it, pass the word along, because this thing's going to keep going onward and upward as long as the resources permit. But like I said before, I am optimistic about 2025. There's going to be some big things with Ascendant Chaos or the Firewall Protocol saga happening. And I know there's going to be some big things happening with Aladdin 3477. So I hope you're excited about 2025. I certainly am. And that's all I got for now, but we'll see you soon.